Afgelopen zaterdag is op het onafhankelijkheidsplein voor het eerst in Suriname de Amerikaanse Memorial Day gehouden. Deze dag is voor het eren en rouwen van de Amerikaanse militairen die om het leven zijn gekomen tijdens de verschillende oorlogen. De ambassadeur Robert Faucher van de Verenigde Staten van Amerika in Suriname vertelt er meer over.
As we gather here today at Independence Square, I can think of no place I would rather be to commemorate U.S. Memorial Day. And no finer collection of friends and colleagues to share this ceremony with. On behalf of the United States government, thank you all very much for coming today, and thank you, Mr. Minister, for your kind comments. Now, Brigadier General Bartunek recounted in her opening remarks the origins of Memorial Day, and that they are seated in tragedy of the American Civil War. The magnitude of that disastrous American tragedy remains unmatched in American history. Yet, out of that calamity, we now have one of our most sacred traditions, Memorial Day. It is a day when the United States honors all those who lost their lives while in service in the American Armed Forces. It is a day when we pause to remember the cost of freedom and democracy and our efforts to protect it around the globe, year after year, generation after generation. It is estimated that about 1.4 million servicemen and women throughout America's history have made the ultimate sacrifice at home and abroad. Throughout the world and in small towns in America, you will see events, big and small, like today's Memorial Day ceremony, to honor those American servicemen and women who died for the country. Today, we recognize that all countries have suffered similar losses, and it is that recognition that connects the United States to distant lands, a connection of shared pain and shared loss. That connection holds true for the United States and Suriname. Now, the United States and Suriname share a history that goes back hundreds of years, including when both were colonies of the Netherlands and of England. Indeed, I would say that no history of either country is complete without telling the story of our shared history, the shared history that shaped the destiny of both our lands. After American independence was declared in 1776, we know American naval ships, sailed the waters off Suriname and often came into Suriname's ports. And we recognize from the start of our independence that we lost U.S. or American naval sailors here to disease and accidents while they were in Surinamese waters. This continued up to and through the American Civil War, when ships of the Confederate and Union navies sailed offshore close to where we stand today. The greatest connection, however, by far between our two countries occurred during the Second World War, after Dutch Queen Wilhelmina was exiled to London and asked President Roosevelt for American aid to safeguard Suriname, the last outpost of a free Netherlands. President Roosevelt agreed, and soon 8,000 American soldiers were stationed in Suriname to protect the people of Suriname and the bauxite that they mined here, and to shield the merchant marine here against Nazi ships and submarines. In this way, the United States ensured the free flow of bauxite from Suriname to the United States. And Suriname's bauxite was essential to America's efforts to serve as the free world's arsenal of democracy. Indeed, up to 80% of the aluminum America used to manufacture the planes, the boats, and the other military equipment thrown against the dark forces of fascism around the world by American and Allied forces came from Suriname. And I can speak to this personally. My father was a pilot in the Pacific during the Second World War, and he flew a B-25 bomber that was built from aluminum that came from Surinamese soil. Now, most of the forces that served in Suriname returned home without incident, but we know that scores did not. We believe that almost 50 planes crashed in Suriname during the war years, in most cases without survivors. In one horrific case in 1943, a civilian plane carrying U.S. personnel crashed near Reendorf, killing all 35 souls on board. It was the largest aviation disaster in the Western Hemisphere up to that point. The American military presence in Suriname was initially opposed by then Governor Kielstra out of concern that the United States was somehow engaging in a land grab. But of course, that did not occur. The United States did not act out of conquest. Indeed, the only territories the United States requested of any countries following the Second World War were plots of land in which to bury our fallen heroes. In 1941, the American forces came to Suriname, and neither the United States nor Suriname were ever the same again. American soldiers working with Suriname civilians and soldiers expanded the Zandere Airport, making it into the largest airport in all of South America, and making it also an important stopping point for air traffic traveling from Miami to North Africa. Together, they built the OZ Road, the first road to Zandere, replacing the small railway from Onverwacht. American soldiers working with their civilian counterparts from Suriname built the Zorgenhof airfield as the Army headquarters here in Suriname. But it also served the U.S. Navy for its blimps and dirigibles that were protecting the Surinamese coast from submarines and ships. And the Americans even brought a USO clubhouse to the Kerkplein, which brought the two countries even closer together, and sometimes over the protests of nearby places of worship. The American forces also brought baseball and basketball to Suriname. They enjoyed tennis, bowling, and American movies while they were here. And they even named a local creek near Zandere the Cola Creek, because it reminded them of Coca-Cola. Now, Americans, as I said, did not do this alone. They worked in combination with thousands of Suriname and Dutch soldiers and civilians. And all these efforts laid the foundations for the modern world that the United States and Suriname share today. These experiences changed the United States, just as they changed Suriname, for the better and for good. The losses Americans suffered in Suriname created bonds and memories that continue to run deep and should never be forgotten. They tie us today to the past while showing the way to the future. The United States continues to stand by Suriname as it faces the challenges we all share. The United States honors its service members who died here by supporting Suriname as it becomes a stronger, more secure, more resilient, and more prosperous democracy. Suriname, we are supporting Suriname to be a good neighbor, integrated into the Caribbean and joining its partners on the Atlantic Rim. Today, let us all recommit ourselves to remembering those who have gone before us, because we owe them everything that we are today. And we owe them all our fullest measure of devotion to a better tomorrow.
De minister van Bibi's, minister Albert Ramdim, was ook aanwezig waarbij hij aangaf dat de Amerikaanse Memorial Day van groot belang is voor Suriname, aangezien het de eerste herdenking is van deze nationale dag in ons land.
It is indeed an honor for us to address you this morning at this Independence Square for the commemoration of the first U.S. Memorial Day service in Suriname. It's indeed, Ambassador, a remarkable moment for us in the history of our bilateral relations. And I assume that this will become a tradition every year on. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are together here at the Independence Square. And when we speak about those who have fought for liberty, for freedom, for dignity, for respect all over the world, then they fought for something higher in terms of their goals: democracy, freedom, the right to life. And this Independence Square basically is a landmark for our democracy, our freedom. We have right here behind us the House of the People, the National Assembly. On the other side, well, the Presidential Palace, but the President's office as well. And right in front of us is the Judicial Court, the Court of Justice. So we bring together in one square basically all those values for which our soldiers, all others have fought. This is symbolic, but very meaningful to us as a country as well. So it is in this context that I feel privileged to stand here on behalf of President Chandrika Prasad Santokhi, also on behalf of Defense Minister, Minister of Defense, Krishna Kumari Mathura. Ladies and gentlemen, in the history of the United States, Memorial Day is an important and historic event as you celebrate and honor the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice while serving with boldness and courage in the U.S. Army. And I believe in our lives, but also in our life of our countries, we must always salute and honor and recognize those who fought for freedom, for liberty, for basic values, respect human rights in all of the world, not only in your own country, but elsewhere as well. Because these are values which we should uphold very dearly, and it should be part and parcel of any society's foundation. And some of them paid indeed the ultimate price doing so, and those we celebrate today. But let us not forget that we live in uncertain times as we speak today in many parts of the world where others are fighting for the same values and principles. And let us hope that casualties will remain as low as possible, because every lost life is one that should not have been lost, in my view. We know that approximately 1.1 million servicemen and women made the ultimate sacrifice during 3 different wars in the 1900s. And approximately 2% of the entire US population perished in different wars. This is a significant number that testifies of the high price paid by these men and women in serving their country, and that, as I mentioned, should not be ever forgotten. And it's therefore fitting to decorate the graves, to create federal memorials, to ensure that these men and women are kept into remembrance. For those who have been here for a while, and those who are visiting, Suriname is, in many ways, a peaceful country. Peaceful country with fundamental values at the core of their being. A highly tolerant country with a diversity unknown basically in the Western Hemisphere. So our commitments remain very strong to upkeeping those values for this government. And those fundamental norms and values are internationally recognized, supported, and in that context, we see that as a basis for further collaboration and further deepening of the relationship between the United States of America and Suriname, as well as other friendly nations in the world. We will not waver on those values and norms, simply because that's the only way forward to create peaceful and prosperous societies. Ambassador Fauché, I know that you will speak shortly about the contingent of Surinamese who have fought in several wars in different parts of the world. I particularly want to note the 15 volunteers from Suriname in the Normandy landings, the nearly 500 Surinamese volunteers who enlisted with the Royal East Indies Army, KNIL, and the 200 Surinamese who served in Merchant Navy. These are almost forgotten facts in our society, so it's good to remember and to bring that again to the knowledge of this generation. Not far from here, where we find ourselves, there is a memorial for the fallen soldiers of Suriname during the Second World War, monument van Surinaamse gevangenen van de Tweede Wereldoorlog, right here. So this marks also that physical witness of those principal values for what they fought. Between Suriname and the United States, we have strong ties. We are united on the battlefield, not only there. It's always unfortunate and tragic when you have to unite to fight for a cause and you lose people. And I believe that creates a bond between countries, which should be further deepened. So we look forward to further deepening of not only the political, military, and diplomatic ties between our two countries, but much more as being part of the same neighborhood, close to each other in terms of regional security. There are many things which are happening in this region where soldiers will be involved, other intelligence agencies, and I think we want to make sure that this occasion is not lost, to provide you with that message. On behalf of the government and people of Suriname, I want to extend the best wishes to the people of the United States, the staff of the embassy, ambassador, Brigadier General Bachunek, for a thoughtful and fitting Memorial Day here in Suriname and all over the world. And I would wish to ask you also to kindly, on behalf of President Santokhi, to convey the same sentiments to President Joe Biden.